am here at the office of the one and only DUI Doctor. So what in the world are we talking about today? We're going to find out. Doc, please, for those of you that are listening and you don't know who the DUI Doctor is, give them the spiel. Who are you? What do you do?
So my name's M Vander Heyden. I've been an attorney since April of 2007. It's crazy to say that. It's crazy how fast time goes. So I guess it's been 17 years of being an attorney now. But I've run my own company, my own law firm, DUI Doctor, for about 14, 15 years now, with a focus exclusively, almost exclusively, on criminal defense.
Oh, so you mean to tell me that you're not an actual doctor?
I have a Juris Doctor, a JD, which is the degree you get when you graduate law school. So I guess technically I could be a doctor.
Oh, nice.
I have met a few attorneys that call themselves doctors, which is silly. The real attorneys, we laugh at that. But technically, we do have a doctor degree, a Juris Doctor. So I guess I could call myself Dr. Vander Heyden, but that would be pretty.
That's a nice ring to it.
Yeah. But no, the DUI Doctor is a marketing concept that I came up with many years ago, over 15 years ago. Basically, I just thought it was a cool idea of a brand of something, rather than just having the law office of Adam Vander Heyden like everybody else out there. I wanted to come up with a catchy name so that if you forget my name, hey, whatever, who cares? You'll remember DUI Doctor. So that's what brought us to this. And it was actually like divine intervention. I was sitting at a stoplight, and this was over 15 years ago, and I was trying to come up with a concept of my new law firm. I knew it was time to go out on my own and to stop working for someone and to create my own brand. And I looked to my right, and an ambulance pulled up next to me. This is not a fake story. This is a real story. And the ambulance, you know, they have these symbols on the side of the ambulance. And I looked and I thought, wow, I think I could do something with that. Something with like the medical and the legal theme combined. And that was it. And that was the inspiration that created it. I saw that logo and I started thinking to myself, what should I call my law firm that has to do kind of like tongue-in-cheek, has to do with the medical field?
Right, have some fun with it.
And after some brainstorming and some lunches with some very creative people that I knew, DUI Doctor was born.
All right, yeah, I love that.
Here we are, 15 years later, still going.
You know, it's such a cool story. So if you guys are listening right now, you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking about starting your own business, you know, don't be afraid to think outside of the box. I mean, as you can tell, sometimes it pays off to not, you know, to go against the grain a little bit.
Right. Most firms are not branded. Most firms are so-and-so and associates, or, you know, so-and-so LLC, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wanted something different, you know, something to stand out. You know, I think the brand is easier to recognize, the teal color and the red, the teal and the red, my colors, and the name is more easily remembered than Adam Vander Heyden, just to be honest.
Well, you know, I think it's working out because, I mean, for those of you who don't know Doc's social media presence, I mean, pretty great presence, you know, even on TikTok, which was funny enough. Like, we weren't sure what would happen on TikTok. And ended up, you got like 70K plus followers, you know, and your memes go viral. So, I mean, I think it's been a pretty fun experience.
I think I'm biased, but I think DUI Doctor, out of all the attorneys out there that are way richer than me, I think my social media blows everyone away in Las Vegas. Like I said, I'm biased, but I think the content we come up with, you know, and the topics that we hit, I think are way more cutting edge than anyone else. So, I mean, I'm proud of what we've done over the last, 3 or 4 years we've been together.
Since before, like during pandemic time, which is crazy. So we're going to cover some really interesting things today, since we are in Vegas, in Sin City, and we get the wildest stories that come up. So this one, open up your folder, if you will, and we're going to talk about Spearmint Rhino suing the Peppermint Hippo. So for those of you guys that don't know what Spearmint Rhino is, it's basically, you know, it's a chain of strip clubs. Okay, so it's kind of like a franchise. I almost think about it like, I don't know, the Wendy's of strip clubs. And then so there was this smaller brand that opened up, the Peppermint Hippo, and obviously kind of a play on that same kind of concept. So now Spearmint Rhino's pissed off. So yeah, I'm going to kind of cover a little bit of backstory, and I just want to get your thoughts from obviously an attorney. Do you think this is sound or not?
Right. So, I mean, my specialty, as we already covered, is criminal defense. I am not a trademark attorney. That's way above my pay grade, to be honest with you. But I have friends that are trademark attorneys, and I've asked them questions over the years. When I was trademarking DUI Doctor, which I have trademarked nationwide, by the way. So if anyone out there is using my name, just remember that.
He's coming for you.
So yeah, when I went through the trademark process, basically what's super important is who has it first.
Right.
Right. So like if Spearmint Rhino, obviously they've been around longer, right?
Yeah.
So I guess they're first
since
in time.
1992. So
Right,
they've been
around
here for a while.
Yeah, they've been around since I moved here. Not that I've been there, but they've been around there.
Was cautious.
And so I guess the legal test would be if they're substantially similar. I may be using the wrong legal language. Again, I'm not a trademark attorney. We're just kind of spitballing on a podcast here about this.
Right. So if there are any trademark attorneys, please, we'd love your insight. We'd love your perspective. So comment down below if you haven't heard about this case. Please investigate it. But we're looking at this for the first time, and
that'd be great if we have real trademark attorneys tell me what's going on rather than me trying to tell you. But my understanding is, like, let's say somebody in wherever, California, wants to make Dr. DUI.
Yeah.
Now, technically, that's not the same name as my law firm. My law firm is called DUI Doctor, LLC. But because they're substantially similar to each other, I think that would violate the trademark law. So the question for the court, obviously, would be, does Spearmint Rhino, which is I guess a flavor and a animal,
right,
is that substantially similar to Peppermint Hippo, which is a flavor and an animal? Now, they're two different flavors and two different animals, but I don't know. Are we going to make...
They're both big gray animals. So I don't know. It's kind of similar, right?
It's a good question because, like, I've seen billboards for Peppermint Hippo. I didn't even really know what it was when I first saw the billboard.
Okay.
But then when you thought about it a little bit, yes, it does kind of sound similar.
Or you would at least assume some type of association, like maybe it's like a subsidiary or something like that.
Right.
And so, but here's where it gets kind of tricky because of parody laws. So the whole point, the whole like inspiration, the moment behind the founder. So the founder, his name is Alan Chang. And so he said that he got the inspiration for Peppermint Hippo after he saw a parody of Spearmint Rhino on South Park.
Right.
So it's like the naming even came from a sense of parody. So I don't know. That makes it even more interesting.
I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say they sound similar.
Yeah.
I mean, they do, right? I mean, they're both strip clubs, first of all.
Yeah.
If one was a restaurant and one was a strip club, you could argue they're not in the same field.
Right.
So somebody could name their business the Tax Doctor. And I obviously don't have that trademarked. It's a different business than mine.
Right. Whole different industry.
I don't control the doctor concept for all businesses. It would just be law firms. Well, in this case, they're both strip clubs. I mean, so it's a good question. I mean, the parody from South Park reminded him of Spearmint Rhino. He's already admitting that, they are associated, that he's associated it with Spearmint Rhino. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. This is a Las Vegas local case, so it's interesting.
Well, I want to end this little topic with, in the very words of Mr. Chang, when he said, "The strip club war is on. We won't let this ridiculous lawsuit discredit us," Chang said in a statement. "In the wild, hippos and rhinos coexist. Why not Vegas?"
That's pretty funny. Well, they coexist in the wild, so I guess they should coexist on the strip or down in industrial, I think is where they are. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Mr. Chang is very tongue-in-cheek optimistic there.
Yeah.
But I think there is a legitimate lawsuit. We'll have to wait and see. And if there's any trademark attorneys out there that know way more than me and Marlon here combined, right?
Not an attorney at all here, okay?
Please let us know what you think about this. But I think that my personal opinion, again, temper this with I'm not a trademark attorney. I think Peppermint Hippo may have some liability.
Okay. All right. We'll wait and see.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to get a little bit more serious here. Right. We have some fun in here, but I want to talk about, it's a pretty serious subject, and it's something that people have intense views about, but, we want to be as objective as possible. And at the end of the day, hey, our business is in America, and we want to make sure that America is safe. So, I'm going to cover this. So in a recent court ruling, a United States District Judge ruled earlier in March that completely prohibiting illegal immigrants from possessing firearms is a violation of the Second Amendment.
Right.
So this is really interesting. I'm going to go on just a little bit further, just add a little bit more context to it. So the judge right here, let's see, was charged. Okay, so the person in question during this case, his name was Humberto Cabral Flores. Sorry, I butchered that. But he was charged under Title 18 of the Criminal Code, a measure that prevents illegal immigrants from possessing firearms. So I guess that's what's in question, basically.
Right.
So, I mean, Doc, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Before we get into this, I just want to preface this to our audience. You know, this is not a political statement. We're trying to analyze this from a purely legal standpoint.
Yeah.
So whether I agree with it or not, you know, that has nothing to do. I have tons of clients that are not U.S. citizens. You know, we live in Nevada, which is almost a border state.
Right.
So I have a lot of clients that are not U.S. citizens, and to me, I don't care. I'll just do my best to help my clients. It doesn't matter to me if they're a citizen or not. They hire me, my job is to defend them, right? So, I mean, it looks like this, and again, this is federal law, so I do some federal DUIs, but I wouldn't consider myself a federal specialist by any stretch. 99% of my cases are in state court. So I don't really deal with these big federal constitutional issues, but it seems like, at least according to the summary, that Title 18 of the U.S. Criminal Code, it specifically prevents illegal immigrants from possessing firearms. So we have a law on the books that basically says they shouldn't own weapons, right, or own firearms. And then I guess the counterpoint with these notes is that he had no criminal history of improper use. He had no criminal history at all. So if he was a United States citizen, unless you have a felony or a conviction for domestic violence on your record, you can legally own and purchase a firearm. That's how it works.
Right. Yeah. If your state allows it, then you're good, right?
So the big question is, does he have rights under the Constitution if he's not a U.S. citizen? So
interesting.
That's a good question. And then the second question is Title 18 that prohibits him from owning a firearm, does that violate his Second Amendment right? That's basically what it sounds like what the main argument is here.
Okay.
And again, I'm not a Second Amendment attorney. I don't really get a whole lot of phone calls for that. And I'm not a Title 18 of the U.S. Criminal Code attorney. I don't get a whole lot of phone calls for that either. But it seems like the question that needs to be answered, number one, does the Second Amendment apply to someone who's here illegally? Right. I mean, I'm sure we've had ruling on that before. And then the second question is, does Title 18 violate the Second Amendment? Does it violate his constitutional rights? So if he has constitutional rights, Title 18 would violate that. If he doesn't have constitutional rights, then Title 18 is perfectly constitutional. He can't own a gun. It's an easy question, really easy question if you're a United States citizen. They can't pass a law that infringes on your ability to own a firearm. It says shall not be infringed. I learned on day one of law school, shall means must. They made a big deal of telling us, whenever you see shall in a written opinion, that means must. I remember my professor in law school telling me that. So it says shall not be infringed. That means it must not be infringed. Your rights must not be infringed under the Second Amendment. However, I don't think anywhere in the Second Amendment it says anything about somebody that was living there illegally, living in the United States legally. So it's a good legal question. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. It sounds like, and then some of the follow-up questions is, does Nevada currently allow this? I don't know. No, Nevada does not allow illegal immigrants to own firearms.
Do you think one day that could be the case? Because I know, like, when people hear about these, cases, regardless of what state it's in, they all get all jumpy, right? And they're like, oh man, which state is next?
And it's federal.
Right.
So once they rule on it federally, it'll control the whole nation, right?
Okay.
But again, I've never personally dealt with anything like that. I deal state court stuff. But my thoughts are, I mean, just because you cross the border into the United States doesn't mean you don't have any rights. If someone sneaks across the border and they're here illegally, that doesn't mean that we can just do whatever we want to you. Right. The government can do whatever they want to them. That doesn't make sense. But at the same time, the full-time U.S. citizens that have either been born here or they've come here legally, immigrated here legally, and got their citizenship, it seems like there may be a discrepancy between the two having the same rights.
It seems like, going through, like, a citizen, you still have to go through a lot of processes in order to even get that firearm. You can't just pick it up off the ground and have it.
I own firearms. I have a CCW. And when I go buy a gun, I have to fill out all sorts of forms. You got to do a background check, all that stuff.
Right.
So I'm a U.S. citizen. I live here, and it's still a process to get a firearm, So Again, we're not trying to get political here. We're just trying to analyze it.
It's entertainment, guys. All right.
Right. But the like I said, the heart of the issue is, do they have Second Amendment rights if they're here legally? And if they do, does Title 18 violate those rights? If they don't have the Second Amendment right living here illegally, then Title 18 probably is not unconstitutional. It's probably legit. So we'll have to wait and see how that that ruling comes out, and then we'll follow up with it.
Okay, well, for all those political experts out there, or would-be political experts, please, we want to hear your comments. Keep them fair. Keep them somewhat tamed. Okay, we don't want this video to get taken down. But at the end of the day, we want to know your opinion. So share those, and we'll be right back after a brief commercial break.
All right, I need everyone cleared out. Give this man some room. Doc, I'm glad you're here. This could get messy.
Mr. Smith, there's no reason to worry. Everything's going to be fine. After all, I'm a defense attorney.
What? No, I have appendicitis.
What? Well, this is awkward.
You're not a medical doctor?
Wait, why are you dressed like that?
This? Oh, I wore this. I had a photo shoot earlier. The name of my law firm is DUI Doctor. You get it? I couldn't help but notice your criminal record while I was looking at your medical records, and I saw that you got a couple open DUI cases. I can help you out with that.
Oh, really? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Oh, me next. I have a ton of traffic tickets piling up.
Say no more. Mr. Smith, don't worry. It's nothing the DUI Doctor can't handle. I've done over 8,000 DUIs. I've done over 60,000 traffic tickets. I have the cure for your criminal case.
Why is he talking into the camera?
No idea, but boy, is he handsome.
All right, and we are back. Hope you guys missed us. So we're back with more awesome content with the DUI Doctor. That's DUI Doc Uncensored. So really fun time we're having tonight. Why don't you tell us, Doc, I want to know overall, what are your thoughts on crime in Las Vegas? I know, kind of charged question, but I mean, as a criminal defense attorney, why do you think sometimes people, and I know this is a tough question, but why do you think sometimes people just snap, right?
Right, it is a tough question. Like I've been doing criminal defense 15 years, and we just recently had an incident where an attorney shot another attorney and his ex-wife and stuff. And then he shot himself. So we've had some violent incidents where people just like quote unquote snap. And in my line of work, I've run into clients where I think they just feel like there's nothing, they can't go any lower. It's like,
wow.
They get arrested, and then it's like a domino effect. They like lose their job, then they lose their wife or their kids to like a divorce or custody, and then they have the criminal record. So when they get out, if they get out of jail, where do you go? What job do you get? What do you, it just seems like some people think like there's nowhere lower they could be, and that would probably lead to something like that. I'm on the, I guess, the cops would be the front end of this, and then the middle of it would be the courts, the lawyers, the judges, and then the back end is like once they get sent to like NDOC, the Nevada Department of Corrections, or to the jail, the county jail. And then when they get out, I mean, there are resources available through the county and the state, but that doesn't mean that they all utilize them,
Right.
So just imagine right now, if I got arrested, who would run my law firm for 30 days or for a year?
Right.
And then if I got a felony, I would lose my law license, and then I couldn't afford to put my kids through school and pay for a mortgage and things like that. Where do you go? It's just like you've sunk as low as it goes. And I've seen it happen to clients, and I try to be optimistic with them. Listen,
Right.
when you get out, there's resources available, will help you out. But I think that's what kind of leads. It's more of like a domino effect, at least from my perspective, when I see it happen to my clients. It's sad, but I try to do my best to help them, But at the same time, I'm a lawyer. My job is just to get them out of trouble and get them out of jail as fast as I can, and try to get them the best deal I can. As far as like rehabbing them or giving them like psychological help or something
Right.
that's beyond my expertise.
Yeah.
But I just try to be positive with my clients. Like, listen, it's going to get better. I'll get you out of this mess. And once you get out, get it back together and move on, But I've seen it happen a lot, to answer your question.
I mean, DUI psychiatrist just doesn't have that same ring to it. So, I guess, yeah. But okay, so this is kind of interesting, because some cases can obviously get pretty violent, and you don't just do, traffic tickets. You don't just do DUI. You do other cases as well. Have you ever had a situation where someone approached you for a legal concern? They wanted you to represent them, and you just, you felt this wasn't right. I can't do it. You had to turn it down.
Right. I mean, there's only really one time. I mean, a couple of cases over the years. It's very rare. When someone comes in here, I'm not all emotional. My job is to analyze the facts and use every tool I have at my disposal to get them a good deal and get them out of the mess, right? And it's not emotional to me. It's all logic. That's why you hire an attorney, because you want someone detached from your case,
right,
that can analyze the situation logically without getting emotionally invested.
So you don't want your mom to represent you. She's going to be in tears the whole time.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, but one of the cases that really stood out, when my daughter was 3, I had a DUI come in, and a DUI with death, multiple death case.
Okay.
And he, this is just one of the ones that stuck in my head. He struck a vehicle, and the vehicle exploded or started on fire. And the dad died, and the 3-year-old in the back seat died, and the dog died. The dog was in the back seat with the kid. And I just remember telling the guy, I don't think I can do it. Because my daughter was 3 at the time. And like I said, I don't get emotionally invested in the case. I don't get emotionally, I guess, compromised from these cases. You've been doing it so long, it's just business as usual. But I remember that case, I was like, dude, I wish you the best, but I don't think I can do it. Because the 3-year-old and my 3-year-old at the same time, it was just too much of a compromise for me. So I said, listen, I can't help you, but I wish you the best of luck. And I never followed up to see what happened with the guy. But, I hope he had a good attorney, and I hope he got a fair shake. He got a fair case.
Right.
That's all I'll say. As far as like turning down someone not to defend their case, sometimes clients will come in and have like unreasonable expectations. And this is rare. Most people, when they come in and they talk to me, they understand something has to be given. It's like when you go buy a new car.
Right.
You understand you don't walk in and get the car for free.
Yeah.
You have
or
to
$100. You need a little
bit. You have to give to get, right? And most cases, unless they're completely ridiculous, you have to give a little bit for me to get you out. You have to do some classes or pay a fine or something like that.
Okay.
And then sometimes clients will come in and be like, this is, it's completely ridiculous. I'm not doing anything. I want the case thrown out. This is the way, And after analyzing the case, you're like, well, I don't really think that's realistic. The the prosecutor's not just going to throw your case out because you're a nice person,
Right.
So, I mean, as I said, this is very rare. It's not something that happens very often. Most people come in and they get it, But that would be another time where I'm like, listen, I don't think I can meet your expectations unless I'm Superman.
Right.
Or
I don't know. The guns may throw people off, man. They'll see you walk in all jacked. They're like, this guy's got it.
I mean, sometimes there's just an unrealistic expectation, and there's no way you're going to meet it. So it's like, hey, I think it's best to try someone else.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like doing that, though. I run my own business. I don't want to turn away business. I got bills to pay, but reality is another thing.
Right. Okay. Well, going on more, I guess I don't think this would be a very common thing, but hey, we're in Vegas. You never know. Has there been a time where you felt that your life was, possibly in danger from a client?
I don't want to say yeah, because I don't want people out there thinking my clients are a bunch of scumbags or something. A couple times in my career, I remember I had a guy that was a former pro basketball player. I won't say where.
Okay.
And the guy
Kobe.
No, it wasn't Kobe. And he was humongous. I mean, I'm 6'4", 230 pounds, and he made me look like I was a child compared to him. And we're just about to start a jury trial. The jury's out waiting in the hallway, and he started getting like really, really upset. Like that the case was, he took his tie off. I bought him all these clothes because when they,
it's about to Hulk out on you.
He looked all good. I wanted him all pimped out. And he took off his tie, he took off his belt, and he threw him down, and he just said, I've had enough of all this. Take me back to jail.
Hulk smack.
And the whole time I was sitting next to him like, because this guy could probably just pick me up on my neck and throw me across the courtroom.
Goodness.
And that was one time I really remember. Besides that, I've never had a physical altercation or anything like that. But that was the one time I remember thinking, like, if things get nasty, I'm in trouble, you know, because I'm standing right next to him as his attorney. And there was actually one other time we were in another court, as a different court for a domestic violence case, and the individual was a former UFC fighter, professional UFC fighter. So it doesn't matter his name or anything like that. But he was huge, number one, and he had formal fighting training, and he was a professional. So it's not like a guy that shadow boxes at the LVAC.
Right.
This is a professional fighter who could kill us all in the courtroom with his bare hands probably. And it didn't get violent or anything like that, but he was escalating things with the judge, and we were all starting to give each other like the side eye, like, uh-oh.
I mean, we all remember that viral video about the guy who just jumped at the judge too. So it's like, it's not like this would never happen, you know?
Yeah, we all saw that video, and Judge Holthus is an amazing judge, and I felt horrible watching that. You know, I wish I was
that was crazy.
Help. But yeah, those were the two times. The guy, the basketball player that was like 7 feet tall, like 280 pounds, that was one. And then the professional UFC fighter. I remember the clerk at the time was hitting like the panic button under her desk.
Oh my gosh.
That calls in the extra marshals.
Yeah.
And the button didn't work for whatever reason, so nobody came in. And we're all like, you know, and then it got to the point where I think they actually put the cuffs on the guy, and the guy was complaining that his wrist got broken. So like things did escalate, but he never punched anyone or anything like that. It was more of like they put the cuffs on him to just calm everything down.
Right.
And luckily it did.
So they managed.
I mean, that's a scary situation. I mean, we're all sitting there like in suits and stuff, you know, like not ready to like fight or something like that. We're lawyers. We're not UFC fighters, you know. But those
appearances would throw me off, but still.
Right, but I mean, this guy again made me look like I was a little kid, you know. So those are the two times I can remember.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a look at something, and you know, I feel a certain way about it because I was born and raised here, and I don't think of my state as the worst state in crime.
Right.
But according to this study, this was a study done by Inner Body Research. I've never heard about them before, but apparently they looked at some stats that came directly from the FBI's data, and the way that they weighed the weight of crimes was kind of interesting. So the way that, and I will have, I guess, a copy of this available as you're listening to this. You guys can do your own homework and research and see what's going on here. But the way that they weighed the crimes were homicide offenses had a 50% weight on it, followed by kidnapping, which had 11%, human trafficking offenses, 11%, sexual offenses, 20%, and assault, 8%. So kind of weird way about how you weigh things out, but end all be all, Nevada came in as the worst state. I mean, off the top of your head, I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, do you think it's accurate, or?
I mean, number one, I've done some research on this, and the FBI, every state doesn't send the FBI their crime statistics. So if the FBI doesn't receive that state's crime statistics, and I don't know if Nevada sends them to the FBI or not, they estimate them.
Oh.
You never know if Nevada was sending the actual stats to the FBI or these are estimated. But I mean, I can probably guess, you know, Nevada is a tourist destination. Las Vegas is a tourist destination. People come here, get a hotel room, party like a rock star, you know, and, you know, there's everything you can imagine available. And when they're here, they party it up, and then crimes happen. I know a lot of my domestic violences that I get are like a couple that's drank too much or used drugs. I mean, that's a lot of the domestic violences. I would say like over 60, 70% of them, at least in my experience, are impaired. So, you know, they come here, they party it up, and then things happen. So, and people are here like letting loose. They're not going to work every day. They're here on vacation.
I mean, it's Vegas.
Right. So, I mean, maybe that if these stats are legit, I mean, that would be my guess. And there's a ton of money here. People are walking around with chips and cash, you know, because they're gambling the night away. That creates a little more temptation, I think. For
everyone likes to flex in Vegas, right? They all got their egos a little high. They're all wearing their best clothes or whatnot.
I'd like to dig into the stats, because you know I don't always trust studies and stats.
Right.
But I mean, I live here. You know, it doesn't seem.
Does it? Yeah, it doesn't feel that way to me. I don't know.
Top 5 worst states for crime, Nevada #1. It sounds like if I didn't live here, you think people that live here can't even leave their house.
Like Wild West or something. We're getting shot up.
When I first moved here and I didn't know anything about Vegas, I
Right.
lived on Paradise and Flamingo, and my car got broken into like 10 times. So like, maybe it depends. Like anywhere else,
there, yeah.
right? Anywhere, kind of like anywhere else. It just kind of depends where you are, I think.
Right.
But like, it's not like I walk around in fear of my life every second of the day because I live in Nevada.
Right. Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, and so you guys are probably wondering what are the other states ranked in there. So a little disclaimer in here that I found out in the statistical report. Florida was excluded from the study because I guess, maybe going on what you said, maybe they didn't report or whatever, which is interesting because, we all have the Florida guy memes, right? The Florida man. So Florida man was not included. So that's why I think that's the only reason we scored as number one.
Florida's got to be number one,
Yeah.
right? Come on, let's be real. No,
Come on,
Florida's great. I just went there. We're just at Disney.
Yeah, I love Florida too. Okay, so Nevada, followed by New Mexico, because they got aliens, right? Roswell.
Right. Then Area 51.
Area 51. No, we're Area 51.
They got Roswell.
They got Roswell. So 2 alien-related cities. Is there a correlation there? I don't know. Followed by Arkansas, Tennessee, and Alaska. Okay, I believe Alaska.
Like I don't know. I've been to Alaska. I mean, when it's my wife's from there, so like when it's completely dark for 24 hours a day, maybe that would be.
Gotta do something to you, like psychologically. Like, you're just in darkness. You're like, screw life.
Maybe that's like a per capita stat or something. But how could Alaska, with their population, compare to like New York or L.A.
right,
or like Baltimore or something? It just seems like maybe those stats are skewed. I don't know.
So this one will throw you off too. So top 5 safest states. Number 1 on the list, New Jersey.
Right.
That surprised me. No offense, New Jersey, but I'm a little surprised there. Followed by Vermont. Okay, I don't really have an opinion on Vermont. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, but I don't know.
They're all small northeastern states,
right?
For whatever reason, except for New Jersey, which after watching The Sopranos, really? Okay, I guess it's safe there. Okay,
I guess. Well, yeah. If you guys are from any of these states and you're listening right now, we'd love to know your personal opinions. What is day-to-day life in your state? Do you agree with these stats? Do you think these stats are completely biased? I don't know, but we'd love to hear it. Right. And so. Now, this is kind of interesting. So question for you, Doc. I mean, what do you think we can do? Again, tough question. What do you think we can do to lower the crime rate here in Nevada or here in Las Vegas?
I had a friend of mine ask me this recently.
Okay.
And he suggested a governor on a car that would top the car out at like 80 miles an hour.
Huh.
So, I mean, a lot of my accidents, a lot of my DUIs with death that I've handled happen below 80 miles an hour.
Okay.
Obviously, the ones that we hear about on the news that are really bad,
right,
like the Las Vegas Raider player and stuff like that, those were over 100 miles an hour. But I've done a lot of them where the speed was way under 80. So I don't think the speed just by itself. And I'm not a big fan of, I drive a BMW M4. I'm not a big fan of putting a governor on my car and top it out at 80 miles an hour. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't think they've come up with a solution to this question. Otherwise, they probably would have tried to implement it, right? As long as alcohol is legal, right?
Yeah.
And driving is legal, and combining 2 legal things together make them illegal, I think that there'll always be DUIs. I mean, until we have self-driving cars that drive everyone everywhere all the time, and you have absolutely no control of your vehicle whatsoever, I think that, I don't know if that's a pessimistic answer to your question.
Right. But it's funny. It's a realist answer, and it answers the question I was going to ask after, which is, do you think that DUIs will become phased out with electric vehicles? Because I know that, the federal government has this idea that they want all gas to be, fizzled out and everyone be using electric and everything be automated. I mean, do you think that's honestly something that would happen?
I don't think
in the
it's
future
realistic in our lifetimes. We rely too much on fossil fuels. But, and even electric cars get in accidents. I see Teslas in accidents all the time, so it's not like they're accident proof.
Yeah. And
I have clients that get DUIs all the time in Teslas, so because it always gives you a description of the vehicle they're driving in the reports.
Cybertruck.
Right. It's like my clients have electric cars just like gas cars. I think like the only way it would ever like completely be erased would everybody had a self-driving car. That would be
right. Jetsons.
like if the entire world, the entire country had no control over their vehicle whatsoever. I mean, that
doesn't sound good either.
doesn't really sound good either.
Well,
Like, if you're a bad boy, we won't let you drive where you want to go today.
Right.
We're going to shut that down. You know?
Unless you're a politician, then you get all the free pass. So who knows?
You get a gas car.
And private jet and all that good stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying all these awesome topics that we're covering. Make sure that you follow if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button, that follow button, wherever we're currently streaming this. And we'll be right back after another quick commercial break.
Your Honor, I know my client's been accused of DUI, of driving under the influence, but I'd like to start my argument with this. He wasn't actually intoxicated at all.
Never heard this one before.
Objection! Your Honor, his blood alcohol level was 2.5 times the legal limit.
Don't worry, Mr. West. I got this. Your Honor, my client's a big guy, clearly. His body can handle more alcohol than the average person. Have you ever heard of a beer coat?
Well, this should be good.
And Judge, according to the World Health Monopoly, it's scientific fact that drinking alcohol can actually raise your body temperature. So my client's driving in the middle of winter. It's entirely plausible that his body temperature was raised, so he took his coat off. And that's why he failed the field sobriety test. Trust me, it's science.
Oh, you are so going down.
You see, Judge, my client wasn't actually driving his vehicle. He went into the vehicle to warm up while he was waiting for her to walk around the Forum shops and spend his money. And then when she came out, she found him asleep in the vehicle.
That's even worse.
My client claims when she came out, she opened the door, she moved his hand onto the steering wheel, took a picture, and then woke him up afterwards. Doesn't that sound a bit suspicious?
God, it was a prank.
I've heard enough. Now, I hereby find the defendant
And we are back. All right, so we're having so much fun here with you, Doc. Thank you for having this awesome thing. You know,
Talking shop, dude. This is my life.
So we're gonna continue talking. We're gonna get kind of petty on this episode towards the end here. So I want to know about these, weird and petty cases that you've had. I remember one time you mentioned about a Christmas Grinch. Can you elaborate on that for our viewers? I mean, I think that's just insane.
So of course everyone will remain anonymous. A lady went to purchase an air hockey table at a guy's house off Facebook Market or something like that. Went to the house, picked up the air hockey table, plugged it in, everything was fine, put it in the back of the truck, drove home. This is the kid's Christmas gift. It's a big deal here.
Okay.
Plugged it in to show the husband when she got home, and then it didn't work.
Ooh.
Like, wait a second. So she came back to the guy's house where she bought it from and said, listen, it doesn't work. We plugged it in. He said, it worked when you plugged it in here. So I'm not giving you $100 or $150 back. And she flipped out. It was all on camera. It was all on the Ring camera, so we saw everything from beginning to end.
Good old Ring.
I felt bad for her because she probably felt like she got ripped off, right? But, there's such thing like impulse control. Like there's, you want to do something, but your brain tells you, hey, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
There was no impulse control in this case. She walked out and started pulling the Christmas lights down while I was ripping the nails out, and then walked over to this guy's $100,000 Ford Raptor and just took her keys all the way down the side, up and down, back and forth.
Oh my goodness!
It was like an expensive truck, right?
Yeah.
And then she ran and got in her car and was looked like she was gonna smash into the guy's car or something like that. But I don't think she smashed into it. She just keyed it up and then drove away. And then obviously he called the cops. The license plate was on the video on the camera.
Yeah.
And he just called the cops,
red-handed.
gave him the license plate number, and the cops showed up at her address. What happened, I felt bad because this is like Christmas. They all got kids. The guy had kids, the guy that was selling it. So all this is like happening in his front
That's
yard.
not fair for his kids. All their Christmas decorations.
Right, it was their air hockey table. Like he was selling their old air hockey table. So yeah, we call that one the Christmas Grinch, I guess. I got her out of it, but I think she had to pay for the damage to the truck.
Okay.
Because I kind of convinced the prosecutor it was just kind of like a spur of the moment, like lost her mind because she got ripped off. She thought she got ripped off, but she did have to pay the guy back for the repairs, and that was a lot of money for that truck.
Well, I hope both of the parties involved have had much better Christmases since.
Yeah, me
and they
too.
put that behind them.
I haven't heard from her since, so I hope everything's fine.
Okay, yeah.
I had another one. It was right around Thanksgiving. So the day before Thanksgiving is a big party day.
Sure.
Because I get a lot of DUIs after
family,
Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving everyone has the day off, right?
Yeah.
So that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, big party day, I had a woman who, when the cops pulled, she was at a party, she left the party and crashed up on a median, and her car was like high pointed, so she couldn't move it. She's like trying to rev it, and the tires weren't touching the road because it was like high pointed. And when the cops showed up, they said she was completely naked, running circles around her car.
What?
And so they're like, what's going on? Like this is not normal behavior. So obviously
typically not.
They're like, hey, what's going on here? And then she could like barely speak, because she was so messed up on drugs.
Wow.
And so luckily they gave her a blanket and stuff like that to cover her up. But that was one of the more crazy DUIs that I had.
You got to add that to the list too now. You got to Thanksgiving, I don't even know what to call it. So if you can think of a catchy name for that Thanksgiving case, we'd love to hear that in the comments. Here's another question. We're talking more about like life in court, because I feel like people watch media, they watch TV shows, and they have this expectation of what life is, being an attorney and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, what's the work environment like in court? I mean, is it like suits or what? Give us the real scoop.
So like 90% of my workload involves going to court.
Okay.
Before, when I was a civil attorney, right when I passed the bar, it's the opposite. Like 5% of your workload is going to court. 95% of your work is like sending nasty gram emails and phone calls. But when I switched over to criminal, then like 90 to 95% of my day, my workload is in court. So like once court's over and I go to lunch, once court's over at like noon and I go to lunch, basically most of my work is done for the day. But the average, I guess, life span of a case is you appear on the first court date, and when you appear on the first court date, you never have the information for the case. You don't have the blood alcohol level on a DUI or the police report or the 911 call on a domestic violence or something like that. You don't have what's called discovery. Discovery is the evidence for the case.
Right.
So usually on day one, which is called the arraignment, you'll kick the case out a few months to give you time to review all the evidence, right? And then you evaluate how strong or weak your case is by reading the discovery, looking at the dash cam, the body cam, stuff like that. And then what will happen is a discussion will take place between the prosecutor and the defense. And I would say probably 95, 96% of the time, the cases get resolved. And that means they get negotiated. The client does some classes.
Before you go into court.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that leaves like 5% of the time where it doesn't, where basically the case gets set for trial, you prepare to go to trial. And then again, now we have another, I guess, roadblock. Most of those cases get resolved on the eve of trial, which leaves about 1%, 2% of the cases that actually go to trial. And cases will actually go to trial, like if I feel very strongly about a legal issue and the prosecutor doesn't agree with me. Like, I think this is a really good legal issue that the case should deal, right? And the prosecutor thinks that's not a good deal, or that's not a legit issue. You're wasting my time. Then we go to court and let the jury or the judge sort it out. So it's not like Suits. Suits is like everything is so dramatic and glorious, you know? And I remember one time I was watching it with my wife. She watched it. And there was a situation where the lawyer, the guy, the main guy,
right,
the big stud, I forgot his name, just went and visited another lawyer's client. Well, there's an ethical rule.
You can't do that,
You can't
right?
communicate with a represented party. If you did something like that, like if I just went and talked to a represented party, like the defendant or the plaintiff, and went around his attorney and just went straight to the client, I'd get disbarred. But in Suits, it's like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm going to go talk to her and talk her into taking a deal. The rule is there so that you don't go persuade the client
outside of court,
outside of her attorney or his attorney, I mean, I remember watching the episode and I'm like, Rich, if I did that, I get disbarred, you know?
Well, there you have it, guys. So sorry, Suits, you're kind of capping right now.
Right.
But thank you so much, Doc, for being on this episode. This has been so much fun. So we'll do it again next time, and make sure that you follow. And if you need legal help, duidoctor.com.
Yes, sir. Thanks.